Welcome to Make and Decorate, a podcast for makers who love to sew, quilt, and decorate. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Make and Decorate podcast. This is episode 10. Yay, double digits. And I am Stephanie. So on this episode, I'm mainly going to be talking about Thanksgiving, sewing, and decorating. I know it's a little bit late to be talking about this because Thanksgiving is going to be in 2 weeks from the day that this episode is published. But I still think it will be useful. And if you haven't figured out your tablescape yet, you can certainly do some last minute things, even handmade or semi-handmade. And I'll give you some ideas about that. But first of all, I just want to remind you to please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. I really, really appreciate it. And it's really helpful to just share and get as many listeners as possible. All right, so you may have noticed there was a bonus episode last week. My podcast is bi-weekly, and last week was the off week, but I put up a mini episode, which I call mini-sodes, and it was pretty fun, just keeping it kind of short. And, if I have content and things that are happening and I want to keep it, timely to that week or whatever, I'll do like this little mini-sode and put it up on the in-between weeks. If I don't have anything, it's not, just not going on, or maybe it just gets too busy, then there won't be a mini-sode. But I think it's a fun thing to do and just kind of like adds a little bonus episode for you guys. So let me know if you like it. I've seen a lot of downloads already, so I think it's a good thing. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. And what else? I'm working on a future episode, and I want to ask for your input. I'm going to have a guest on who is a sewing technician, and he was asking if there were, any questions ahead of time. So I thought it was a good idea, and I told him I would ask ahead of time on a podcast and get your feedback. And so what we're looking for are questions that you will have on general maintenance and troubleshooting on your sewing machine. This technician services all different kinds of brands of sewing machines, and he is very knowledgeable on Bernina machines. He has direct work experience with that company for many years, and he also has even many more years on servicing, all the different kinds of machines. And I'm so excited for this episode. You know me, I love sewing machines and I love to utilize them to their fullest extent of capabilities and features. And so I want to share as much knowledge as I can get and share it with you. And so this is a really great opportunity to get your questions in and learn a little bit more about your machine and how to take care of them and what to watch out for. And I'm talking about maybe like threads that get stuck in, like little tiny pieces of threads that may get stuck in your bobbin case can throw off your tension. So things like that, and then just general maintenance. Obviously, if there's like a question on something that really requires a professional to fix, then that's probably not going to be a good question for the podcast. But send me what you got and send it to my email at stephaniesochadesign@gmail.com. You could go to the link in the podcast notes. I think the link is also in the description, in the podcast description on the episode. So yeah, send me whatever questions you got. I know I have a tall list of my own questions, so we'll see what we get. Okay. And the next full episode, I have got a super guest. I'm going to keep it a surprise for now, but you all probably know who she is. And I'm so excited that she came onto the show and we had a great time and a great conversation. So I'm so excited about that one. So be sure to download and listen, definitely for the next episode. Be on the lookout for that. Right, so let's talk about Thanksgiving sewing and decorating. I want to talk about tablescapes. So, just a little side note. 2 days a week, I freelance interior design for a high-end residential interior designer. So it's just us two, and she has the office out of her home. And we have some clients, and one in particular who often has us do her tablescapes, table linens. She entertains a lot, and those are really fun projects. And in fact, last year, it was coming down to the last minute on some things, and she needed some additional table runners to go with some of these placemats that she had gotten. And our workroom was just, at the holidays, the workrooms are just jammed with orders and people obviously wanting all of their draperies and, pillows and table linens made and installed and delivered before the holidays or before their holiday party or whatever their deadline is. So, thankfully I know how to sew, and I was able to make these table runners for her last year. And we did the whole tablescape, and there were a couple of tables because there were going to be about 35, 40 people at this dinner. So it was fun, and I want to share some of these designer tips and tricks to you for your Thanksgiving tablescape and decorating. And even if you don't get so formal, there are some really cool things to do with rustic tables or casual. You could just keep it fun and interesting. So let's talk about the tablescape. And what I mean about tablescape, I mean the whole look from, your table linens, like a tablecloth, runners, placemats, napkins, setting the table, and then decorating ideas. So let's just start with the bottom layer, which is the table. Most people at this time of the year will extend their table as long as it can go if they are entertaining. So if you have your leaves, you're going to put those in, and now your tables that might be 72 inches long in its everyday state might extend to 96 inches, or even some of them extend up to 120 inches, which is a 10-foot table. So that takes a lot of fabric to cover, and a tablecloth is not entirely necessary, but it is necessary if you have, a wood table that has, table pads if you have a table and you use table pads, and the table pads are kind of like a little 1/2 inch thick vinyl covered, and the felt is on the bottom, and they clip together into the exact shape of your tabletop. And that protects your wood table and finish from not only spills, but from heat, that when you set down your serving dishes or anything hot, it will protect it from the heat getting down into the finish and, creating, a cloud and all this other damage that it can do. So when you've got table pads on there, you want to cover up your table because it's not that pretty. So that's when you would need a tablecloth, or even if you don't use table pads, tablecloths are really pretty, especially at this time of the year. And it's fun to dress up a table. So a tablecloth, I just want to give you some general dimensions to look for. And if you are doing ready-mades, a lot of times, it depends on the size of your table, but the ready-mades are just kind of like some generic size that may or may not fit your table, and the ends may end up being too long, or the sides are, short or whatever. So my recommendation, if you are going to do store-bought ready-made tablecloths, get the size that closest matches the length of your table that it's going to be extended on the day that you entertain, and try to have it to be 9 inches longer. So it's called a drop. So you want a 9-inch drop, which means when the tablecloth falls over the edge of the table, you want it to drop around 9 inches. So let's say you have a 72-inch long table and you want a 9-inch drop. So a 9-inch on each end of that 72 inches is an additional 18 inches. So you're going to be looking for 90 inches in length. So I can tell you that a ready-made is going to be about 96 inches. That's close enough. You don't have to hem a 96 inches tablecloth, 3 inches each side. But if your tablecloth was anything more than when it's getting to be 12 inches, you do want to hem that up. So if you're going to make a tablecloth, you want to get a decorator with fabric. You can make it with quilting fabrics, but those are only 43, 42 inches wide. And most tables, that's about as wide as they are, 42 inches. So you have absolutely zero room for a drop. So a 54-inch wide fabric, you'll get at least a decent... I don't think you'll get a whole 9-inch drop with a 42 or 44-inch wide table, but you'll get a decent little bit of a drop, and without having to add a whole nother width of fabric and a seam down the length of the tablecloth. So without getting into too much detail, I'll just do a quick example of if your table is 96 inches, let's say that's with your, leaf extensions, then, and you're making a tablecloth, add your, 9 inches on each end, which is 18 inches in total. So you're going to want your finished length of the tablecloth to be 114 inches. Don't forget to add your seam allowances in there. And, you can make it like a 1/2-inch seam. 1/4-inch seam it's going to be a little, you're probably going to want to do, actually a double turn 1/2-inch. So you're going to do an extra 2 inches. So you're going to want to cut your piece at 1/16 inches. That's if you do a double fold, hem. You can just do the length. And if you're just going to do it like a satin stitch rolled hem around the edge, which that could look really nice too, and it's pretty quick to do. And you can do that on your regular sewing machine or serger. So those are just some ideas. And then, I didn't tell you what the width would be. So if your table is 42 inches wide, which is kind of a standard width, then you're going to add your 18 inches to that, and you're going to want it 60 inches. Okay, so that's an issue if you just want to use a 54-inch wide fabric. So that's why I'm saying that, just use that 9 inches as a guideline, and 60 inches will still, 54 inches will still give you some drop over a 42-inch wide table. However, if you really want it to be even on all sides, then you would just have to add an additional width of fabric down the length of the tablecloth to equal the 60 inches in width. Okay, so that's tablecloths. Fabrics for tablecloths. Linen is a wonderful fabric, and I love it. But just so you know, it wrinkles a lot and it requires a ton of ironing. So another alternative is a linen cotton blend. That also gets wrinkly too, but not as bad as just a straight linen. Robert Kaufman has some beautiful Essex linens, and they are available in, I think, about 3 to 4 colorways, which are basic neutral colors. The flax is my favorite, and those are available in a wide width of 55 inches wide, I believe. And you can also consider quilt backing fabrics for tablecloths, because those are 108 inches wide. So those are some really good options for making tablecloths, and even making placemats, because you do need quite a bit of fabric to make even placemats. So other fabrics, cotton, of course, and some of the ready-mades are made out of this polyester poplin, and I think those are popular with a lot of people because they're stain resistant and they're easily washable and they don't wrinkle. But I personally just don't like the feel of them. So it's just, I like the natural fibers better. But it's up to you, and a couple of places where you can look for ready-made tablecloths are Wayfair. They've got some really nice ones for good pricing. And then shopping locally, Home Goods is also always a good place to get some pretty table linens at a good price. And of course, Pottery Barn and Williams-Sonoma always has really beautiful table linens seasonally. So another thing that makes a tablescape look so luxurious and just completely like designer-ish is layering your table linens. So doing a tablecloth and then putting a table runner down the center. And you could still even add placemats around too, but that kind of gets, a little bit much. But I do love layering a table runner over a base layer of a tablecloth that, like I said, that flax, Essex linen has such beautiful texture, and it's just a nice neutral color, and it creates such a nice base to other patterns, prints, and colors that you'll layer on top of it. So a table runner, you kind of want the same thing as far as a drop. You want it to run down the center of your table. Depending upon your table width, again, your table runner is going to be either 16 inches deep or 18 inches deep. These are just general guidelines, so you make it however you want to make it, but I'm just telling you just standard, kind of workroom sizing that I work with all the time. And then a 9-inch drop on each end. So that is what we use for our clients' tablescapes. They're beautiful. We kind of get elaborate with the design of table runners. We'll do like a bias contrast binding around, or flange around the perimeter of the runner. We'll do an inset tape trim that covers the seam of that, where the flange is attached to the main part of the table runner. I mean, the sky's the limit on what you can do with table runners. So you can, if you are a machine embroiderer, you can do some machine embroidery, hand embroidery, just that could be a really nice decorative piece to your table. And then if you have a tablecloth, you can definitely forego placemats. Or another idea is, now if you're going to go with a more rustic look and you have a table that, is, you want it to show, and it's okay if, it gets a little beat up or whatever, you're not worried about it getting scratched and that sort of thing, you can just do a table runner and placemats. But people are going to spill definitely on Thanksgiving, and things will happen. So just make sure that if you do have exposed table, that's, those kind of things are going to happen. But some tables have a coating on them. They'll have like this catalyzed finish, and it's impermeable to spills and scratches. So that's a case where you can definitely just do a runner and some placemats, and have it really, your wood showing through of your tabletop. So getting into sizes of placemats, you'll either want to do a 12 by 18 or a 14 by 20. The 14 by 20 size is if your table is about 44 inches wide. The 12 by 18 is if you have a 42 inch or less, like some tables are even 36 inches deep. So, just kind of what you want to make sure you have room for is, you want your placemats to be bigger than the plate that's sitting on it. And a lot of times, for more special dinners, people will layer chargers, decorative chargers under their plate setting, the plates. They're really pretty. And chargers are around, 12 inches round. So if you're going to put a placemat under that, it's got to be at least 12 inches, deep, by 18 inches wide, to fit a charger. And even better, if you do have a wider table, to go with the 14 inch. So it's all about the layering, and you want the layers to be, appropriately scaled. But again, this is just, all these layers are really going to create such a beautiful table for your Thanksgiving or even Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever that's coming up. So tablecloths, table runners, placemats. And placemats, because you're going to put plates and chargers and everything on top of it, those don't have to get as decorative. I even think it's kind of fun just to maybe even do like a quilting. You could just do straight line quilting to add texture to it. You don't want the placemats to be too lofty or anything. I mean, I would just do more of like a flat cotton batting in between the layers of a placemat. They do have that real dense, specially made for placemats, insert or stabilizer. So you can even do that. But I kind of like a more softer looking placemat that actually looks like fabric, and not like a board. So that's just my personal preference. And another thing that's kind of fun to make, and these are kind of quick to make too, are wine glass coasters. I made some of these for gifts last year, and they were so cute. So you can get a pack, use charm packs, which are 5-inch squares of cotton fabric. And you basically cut out 4-inch circles, and you need 5 fabrics per wine glass coaster. I should probably do a YouTube video on that, just for a little tutorial. But they're pretty easy to make. You just layer like the first 4 fabrics. They're folded in half, and they make like this grid and overlapping grid, sort of, where the base of the wine glass then kind of just slips inside, and you cover it up. People can just take their wine glass anywhere and set it down, and you don't have to worry about anything. And I don't know, they just look festive and cute and pretty. So I used, actually this, again, with the Essex linen, but the metallic linen mixed with a, just a fabric, cotton quilting fabric, turned out really, really festive and beautiful. So that's, all of that are just great ideas to help add depth and layers to your decorating for the holidays. And, another thing that you may want to do is set your table, a day or 2 or 3 days in advance. Table setting takes actually quite a bit of time. And our client, has us in like a week before to set up her tables, and we pull out all of her dishes, her china, the serving bowls, even the serving utensils are laid out, the candles, everything is so that all she has to worry about is, her cooking and what she's going to be making, and not worry about setting the table at the last minute. So that's a good tip. I'm probably, maybe everybody already does this, but until I started doing this for a client, I never thought to set my table like a week ahead of time. But it's a good idea. It really is. And then, you know what else it does? When you get it set, it looks so beautiful. I don't know. I love beautiful vignettes, and fabrics and things just make me happy. And I'm sure it does for all of you as well. So when you see that beautifully set table, you kind of get excited for, the dinner that you're going to have, or the people that you're hosting. And it's fun. It really is. So it's not crazy to set your table a week in advance, or even a couple of days in advance. So moving on to some decorating ideas on the table. You can get pretty elaborate, or you can keep it really simple. I kind of like to, go in between, but also remember that there's going to be a ton of food and serving bowls and dishes placed on the table. So you kind of have to keep the decorations simple and strategically placed. So, also, keep it ideal for conversation. If you want to do a floral centerpiece, keep it low and in the center of the table. And, you can really get creative and use what you have on hand for the container of floral arrangements. And it doesn't even have to be a floral arrangement. It can be, a pewter bowl with some fruit in it. Some people live in, beautiful landscape and yards that you can pull greenery. And, right now there may be some branches with berries on them. Snip some of those and bring them in. You can really get creative with that. What I like to do too is the grocery stores will have those little Satsuma oranges with the attached stems and beautiful green leaves on them. And I just get a bag full of those. It might be like $5. I mean, what an impact that makes. And it's fresh, it's beautiful, pops of color and texture. And nature. And those, you don't even need a container for those. You can just, make little groupings, either, in the center of the table with some pomegranates. And just that makes a really beautiful vignette. You can do, if you have a long table, you kind of want like something in the center, and then you want two smaller things towards each end. So everyone has something beautiful to look at in front of them. And it kind of keeps the table sort of open all the way across, some open spots for everything that has to get put out there as far as the food dishes. So, what other ideas? Oh, containers. So, get creative with those. They don't have to be tall vases for flowers. Get some low height things, and you can even use ceramic teapots and put flower arrangements in those. Another thing too that's pretty common, but it's beautiful and I love it. And when you use pumpkins as vases, so pretty. And you can use some real ones, but I actually got some of the craft foam ones that are like the medium size and a little bit more squatty round shape. And all you have to do is cut the tops off of that, and that's an instant vase because the inside is completely hollow. You can put actually a smaller glass dish with a floral foam soaked in water, and then put whatever stems or floral things in that, or just a container and with water, and just put your flowers in there. That's going to be inside of that craft foam pumpkin. So pretty, so cute. So those are just some ideas for decorating your Thanksgiving and holiday table. And then candles. Candles are always nice. Taper candles are really great because they add a little bit of height. That's another thing that we do a lot with our decorating and tablescapes is just creating different levels of height so that your eye moves across the table or the vignette and it creates interest. So taper candles are really pretty. They also don't take up a lot of space because remember, you got to keep room for the food. And don't use scented candles. Make sure they're unscented because, you just don't want that getting mixed up with all of the food smells. And sometimes it can really just be off-putting to people. The best types of candles I think to use are 100% beeswax. And if you want to even add some more texture, I love the beeswax candles that are rolled. And they kind of like have this little honeycomb texture to them. I did find some on Amazon, and they're really pretty. They come in several different colors, and they're beautiful. So I'll put that link in the show notes for those rolled beeswax taper candles. Once you get all of this pulled together, you are going to have such a gorgeous table, and it's going to look great. So one thing I forgot to talk about with the table linens are napkins, cloth napkins. Cloth napkins, I love them. They're great. And I know some people just, want to just keep things simple and don't want to have extra laundry or whatever. But I don't mind, throwing a load of napkins into the washer. I mean, they're easy, and I just think they are so luxurious and beautiful, and they're easy to make. Because cloth napkins can get kind of expensive when you buy them pre-made. But if you're going to make napkins for like dinner napkin size, dinner napkins are generally around 20 inches square to 22 inches. If you have cloth napkins that are more of like a lunch size, those are anywhere from 16 to 18 inches. But really, you can make them whatever size you want. I mean, I think 18-inch square is a nice standard general size where it's versatile. But if you want that really formal dinner napkin, then make it 20 inches is sufficient. And also, I forgot to mention too that it's really good. When I make table linens, I usually make it a point to pre-wash the fabric before I make them, because they will shrink. And if you're making, you don't want your tablecloth to be too short after it gets washed. So napkins are easy. They're just kind of a square shape, and same type of finishing options as you do for a tablecloth. You can do a double fold 1/2-inch hem with mitered corners, top stitch that, or you could do the satin stitch rolled hem. What else? I mean, those are the two main finishes I think that I've done, and they're pretty easy. And you can use your serger as well. I also think napkins are fun if they're done in prints, especially if you have tablecloth done in a solid fabric. A printed and colorful napkin really brightens up the look, and it can hide the soil and stains that may, happen to the napkins as they get used. So let's talk about the scale of the fabric for napkins and even a tablecloth. Because if you decide to do a printed fabric on a tablecloth, you want the scale of the fabric, the print, to be larger. This is going to be against quilters' normal choice for quilt fabrics. You want a little bit more of a smaller scale because the fabric gets all cut up into smaller shapes and sewn back together. In home dec, the rule of thumb is different because you're covering much larger spaces and expanses with fabric, and you want the patterns to be larger as a general rule of thumb. And actually, as the trends go, super large pattern repeats are really the hot thing right now. So when you work with larger patterns, let's talk about the tablecloth first. You just want to pay attention to pattern repeat. And if you are just going to use one width of fabric, that means you're using like a 55-inch wide fabric and you're only cutting the length that you need to cover the tablecloth, and you're going to hem it up, then that's fine because it's going to be centered right down the middle of your table. If you are cutting two pieces of fabric to be sewn together, just pay attention to the pattern repeat. You'll have to match it up, and this will mean that you will need to have a little bit more extra fabric with a print than you do with a solid color because of having to match up the print when you line up the second width of fabric to make that tablecloth wider. And it's the same principle that goes to draperies. So if you've ever made draperies, it's kind of like the same concept, only on a little bit of a smaller scale. So back to the napkins. The prints on a napkin that's, around 20 inches square, let's say you're going to make, or an 18-inch square. Fussy cut the pattern so that somehow it's either centered in the middle of that napkin, or maybe some cool kind of an asymmetrical lineup, but pay attention to that, because you don't want just, to cut off half of the main pattern motif on the napkin, because then it could look, really not that great. So, and I think patterns on a napkin, generally in home dec, you've got a lot of fabrics that have maybe like a 14 inch repeat. Center that in the middle of a napkin, and you've got a really nice looking napkin. And also, another popular size repeat is getting bigger, and then they'll kind of have more of a 25-inch square repeat. So I just want to give you some ideas of decorator fabrics that are different than quilting fabrics as far as pattern repeats and how you work with them. But it's really fun, and I think that it really just takes your table up to another level when you use, patterns, and you pay attention to how they are, being fussy cut for the application. If you do a rolled hem on napkins, it's really fun if you choose a contrast thread to do with that. If you have a serger, use a woolly nylon thread. It's really soft, fluffy, and creates a real full finished edge on the napkins. It's really fun. And if you happen to do a solid color napkin, that's especially fun to do a colorful edge around the hem of the napkin. And another fun thing to do with napkins, napkins are so much fun to me. I love them. You don't have to do them all the same fabric either. I think it's so much more fun to do several fabrics. I mean, you can do 2 fabrics up to 4, or make them all different. Just make sure that they relate to each other in some way as far as like color palette. Let's say your color palette is, I don't know, let's say it is aqua, coral, and what's another color? Navy blue. So choose different fabrics that has at least one of those colors in each of those fabrics. Or hey, if you're going to do a rainbow color palette, then, do one of each color for each napkin. I mean, that could be so much fun. If you are assigning seats or having place cards, this is another area where you can get pretty creative. You could tie them on to napkin rings, and napkin rings themselves, those can be very expensive, especially if you have, 12 people or more. But there's some other things that you can use. You don't even have to have napkin rings. The napkins can be folded in a cool way. But another idea is to have your local florist make napkin rings from greenery, because greeneries are not as expensive as flowers and other things. And, they won't last, there's like fresh flowers. They'll just last for your event, but they smell great and they look cool and it's unique. We did this for a client last year. And, in fact, I think there were maybe like a couple of, berries, like hypericum berries that they put, in the center of these green, like it was kind of like little, I don't know how they did it even. It was so cool, like branchy twine with leaves and then little berries in the front. It was really cool. So yeah, you can get creative with all of that. It's only the limit of your imagination. if you are not entertaining for the holidays or for Thanksgiving, then maybe you might want to make something as a hostess gift. There's plenty of things that can be made that are not so time consuming. I even think that people appreciate, and especially people who cook, would love either, a pretty apron with a tea towel, and you don't even have to make the tea towel. You can buy a plain tea towel and really like embellish it up. Sew on a trim to it, a real pretty, quilt cotton fabric in their colors, their decorating colors. What else? Hand embroider on there. Monograms are always popular. It doesn't take that long to even just do a hand embroidered monogram, and those are outstanding hostess gifts. Last year I made for my client that commissioned a quilt that I made for her. I made her what do you call them? Hot pads? What? How come I can't think of the name of those? Okay, they're called pot holders, not hot pads. So I made and I quilted in a diamond pattern pot holders, and they turned out great. And I made two different kinds. I made like the square kind, a pair of those, and then I also made the one where it's one long one, and it's almost like you use them like little mittens. Each end has a pocket for your hand, and then you can use it to, take anything out of the oven. So those are really cute, and I think anybody who cooks would love to get those as a hostess gift. You can also give those wine glass coasters as a gift. Those are quick and easy and very impressive to people. And the fact that you made them means even more to them. And another good one is cocktail napkins, and those don't require as much fabric as regular napkins, and again, much faster to make. I mean, these are all easy, quick finishes that you can make in an afternoon. Cocktail napkins, I don't know, they're what, 6 inches square, 7 inches square, something like that. And again, with the monogram, that's a really good one. I made some hand embroidered monogrammed cocktail napkins as well. So there's just tons of other gifts, but I'm just tossing out there some ideas of what I have. I know another popular type of a gift, and I have not made this, but I have seen it. I've seen it floating around on Instagram and everywhere, is the casserole carrier type of thing that is quilted, and the handles of this casserole cover are wooden spoons. So that looks really cute and keeps the dish that you bring over really nice and warm. So I think that's a really clever idea for a gift for a hostess or host. All right, so I think that pretty much covers the topic of tablescapes, sewing for your table, and decorating for not only Thanksgiving, because I know Thanksgiving is just, right now relegated to the United States. Canada already had their Thanksgiving last month, and but this is actually helpful information for any time that you entertain and want a beautiful table set, and different ideas on the different layering that you can do to make a really luxurious looking beautiful table for you and your guests. And I'll tell you, even if you don't have a whole table full of guests, maybe if it's only just you and your significant other, it's still fun to make a beautiful tablescape, just even for a dinner for two. So take the time and make it look pretty and, do what you have time for. And I think that you will really enjoy it and just be filled with joy of looking at a beautifully layered and decorated table, which is another reason why I love this holiday. You can just take a time out of the hustle and bustle of our, sped up lives with technology and, we live in the age of the instant everything. So it's just nice to take a pause and enjoy everyone around you and reflect on what's important to you in your life. So thanks again for listening. And I was thinking, if you had any questions on this episode with, making the napkins or table runners and tablecloths, let me know. Because I might use the questions for one of the in-between week minisodes. So we'll see. In the meantime, get your machines out and make something. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Make and Decorate podcast with Stephanie Socha Design. Come find me on my website at stephaniesochadesign.com and check out the show notes page. Post your comments, send me an email, let me know what you're up to and what questions you might have. I'd really love to hear from you. Toodles, until next time. Bye.